Hey guys, I'm learning TFT. In this video, I'm going to go through the patch impact of 14.22 and how it has affected the meta. I'm going to go through statistics with the limited sample size so far on what the average placement differences and win rates, top 4 rates of the top comps in the meta, and we'll talk about why they've changed the way that they have. So this is kind of the high level patch overview, and we'll dive into the specific nuances of how these changes impacted the comps. One thing I like to look at in new patches is to go to tactics.tools' trends page. You can go to stats trends here and see high level what has shifted based off of the patch notes. And you'll see here as far as units go, it's pretty much all multi-strikers that have benefited like 1, 2, 3, 4. Shen is part of the multi-striker package. 6, 7, 8. So 8 out of the top 10 that are trending up are all multi-strikers. And actually even here with Hecarim, Xerath was buffed and Varus was buffed. So Varus Arcana is better, multi-striker reroll is better, and shapeshifters have also been buffed. And part of the impact of that is, even though Rise was not touched, because multi-striker reroll, 3-star Kassadin, 3-star Akali, 3-star Hecarims are going to be running around, it makes AoE casters a lot less strong. So you want to have much more single target casters now. So that's why Rise isn't as strong. That's also why basically any comps that are scaling and more like kind of long fights, stalling fights are not going to be as good because multi-strikers have really fast burst damage, kind of like challengers from, I forget if it was last set or the set before. So hunters kind of got nerfed, not really nerfed, but are impacted partly because if you're also playing against multi-striker reroll, the hunters are going to have a hard time getting their first proc on the takedown, which means that they're going to be dealing less damage. So both for the stall reason and for the hunter reason, the Jinx hunter lines have been hurt. Honey isn't as doing as well also because Honey with Ziggs tries to go towards backline and kind of does like burst chip away and wants to take out the enemy backline. But if you're hitting against a Kassadin 3 that can heal back up, you're kind of tickling the Kassadin 3. You're not really doing much there. Same thing with mages. Mage with Veigar, I suspect, can be okay, but the 1-cost reroll that has been really strong in the early game for mages to stabilize is just not able to burst down, especially Seraphine is not able to burst down Kassadin 3, and so that's going to be impacted in the stats. So you see as far as traits go, the multi-strikers got the biggest boosts. The Chrono time to proc was buffed, so that helped here. And we'll go into kind of more specific details. And a lot of the artifacts were buffed, so what the Forge got improved a lot. And what artifacts are also very good with Kassadin, so that's another reason that Kassadin has just been buffed across the board. So I did this for the last patch, breakdown between 14.22 and 14.21. I split this on Diamond Plus for this patch because it's been less than 10 hours since it came out in NA. And I did it for Master Plus last patch just to have a decent sample size. And I broke down by comp, the type of comp it is, AVP, pick rate, win percentage, and top 4. And I did that for this patch 14.22, last patch 14.21, and then the difference between them. So green indicates that it's improved a lot. Red is not as good, although for pick rate you can use that as a heuristic to say that it got better. But if it has green, like with Ahri Bastion, you could say, oh, it's going to be less contested. So green win rate improved a lot, and the top 4 rate improved a lot. I highlighted in green on the left side comps that are unconditional. So for example, 8 Bastion Flex, you need a Bastion Emblem. Zap Attack Blitz, you need a Zap Attack Augment. So I put the conditions on the right side here. and I highlighted in green the comps that are unconditional. One other thing to note is that charms all cost 1 gold less, which helps reroll since you're going to be able to see a lot more charms, which means you get a lot more of that charm value, which helps multi-striker reroll even more. So there's just a lot of reasons that multi-striker reroll has seen such good stats. Like AVP went up from 4.6 to 4.3, the win rate went up, top 4 rate went up, and that will impact a lot of what was kind of meta last patch. So you see like Scholar or Preserver Rise here went from 4.5 to 4.6, and even like Kalista got worse, Mage got worse, Jinx Wukong dropped 0.2 placements from 4.3 to 4.5. The other big winner is Arcana Varus. There's a Varus AD buff, Xerath buff. Sniper's focus increased from +1 to +2 range, which helps Varus a lot be able to snipe the largest clump. Varus also does a lot of burst damage, which can play well into the Kassadin 3. So that's another consideration, is the comps that don't do good burst aren't going to play well into this meta where Kassadin is going to be king. So here I put the patch impact of going through the patch notes and figuring out how the patch notes impacted each of the comps. So I'm not going to go into all of them. I just kind of want to highlight the ones that had the biggest impact. So multi-striker, Akali and Kassadin both got buffs, and there were significant artifact buffs across the board. So that plus the charm all cost 1 less means that Kassadin seems to be the default best reroll available right now. And if you can get like press the attack or a multi-striker emblem +1, that gives you a huge advantage. I also wonder if the play rate right now is 0.5, which is not that high. I suspect that this play rate should go up, which may cause the AVP to go down. But this line might even be playable just to play vertically. I didn't put here, but there was also the chrono time to proc buff if and when you're able to get Jax and Camille online, which will heal your whole team once it procs, which helps your 3 stars even more. So this line seems very strong. Also, if you get what is it? The line that Dish Soap played in the regionals last game, the augment that lets you transform your items into support items, that's also going to be a really good lead in here. But if you're contested on Kassadin, you can still hit if someone else is contesting. But I suspect you can also just play this vertically and just play tempo multis. Seems viable as well if you're contested. Arcana Varus got the Varus Xerath buff. It has that burst potential. I would say this is kind of more of a fast 8 or fast 9 comp, because you don't get a ton of the value until you're able to get Xerath in. And similar to the Shapeshifter Dragons board, you really need to have like Smolder and Briar for this comp to really get online and stabilize. And I would say the same is true for Arcana Varus, which is why the pick rate is low, but the win rate for this is really high. So these two comps, Arcana Varus and Shapeshifter Dragons, are probably your highest win rate non-conditional. This is like kind of conditional in that any fast 9 comp, it's not conditional on any augments per se or emblems, but to get to fast 9 you need to basically streak in the early game. You can't play this from lost streak because you're just going to bleed out, and you usually need an econ augment. So these two are going to be your highest win rate non-conditionals, and your highest win rate conditionals is 6 sugar, has a 8 sugar upside. So and Gwen was buffed as well, and Fiora. So Sugar is going to be a lot more reliable if you have a Spatula Portal, for example, or an emblem available early. Plus, you get a lot more charms. Well, I don't know that that necessarily helps Sugar, so scratch that. 8 Bastion Flex got better as well with the highest win rate in the game. Xerath will be your highest cap out option with the Xerath buff, with charms also cheaper and Xerath charms I believe also getting buffed. 8 Bastion Flex will be your highest cap. This is going to be your Exodia in the game now. Let's see what else got improved. 6 Chrono with the Chrono time to buff, Zillion buff, Karma buff got improved. It's still only at a 4.5 and a 13% win rate. So it's not like it's great, but it's a lot more viable now as a line to take. Syndra and Shapeshifter reroll improved by 2 placements. This got buffed in a lot of different ways. And same thing with Shapeshifter Dragons. Like the Shapeshifter line got Jace, Nico, Swain, and Nasus all got buffs. 10 Shapeshifter is now a new vertical chase trait. And Incanter also got buffed for the Syndra line, where you get those Incanter AP stacks earlier. And then Gambler's Blade also got a buff, which is good on either Syndra or on Cassiopeia. So we have those as kind of the highest improved average placement lines. And if we look at the big losers in the patch, Warwick got a slight AD buff by 1, but it's generally gonna lose into Kassadin 3. Like if you just match up a Kassadin 3 against a Warwick 3 straight up, the Kassadin 3 should win. The one thing to note is that Sniper's Focus got +1 range, so now it's at, will help Warwick be able to attack with a 3 range, and there's a Hole Crusher buff. So if you're able to get Sniper's Focus onto Warwick, he is a lot safer. And it kind of reminds me of, there was a Mordekaiser hero augment, or no, Mordekaiser from like set 9. This is the set that I first played in my first tournament and did really well. And where you could basically backline your Mordekaiser. If you get 2 Sniper's Focuses, you could just straight up backline your Warwick. That's what I did for, that was when RFC on Mordekaiser was a thing. And that seems to be quite viable now, and maybe even better than RFC, since he gets that extra 1 range over RFC. But yeah, that's going to be weaker. Ahri got a little bit weaker, though Xerath got buffed if you can get to the end game. Let's see, Jinx and Wukong got weaker, even though Jinx got a slight AD buff and Zillion got a buff. Gambler's Blade will help Jinx a lot to get that gold and hit earlier, especially if you get double Rage Blade with that Gambler's Blade. She could just proc a lot. A 1% difference in the ability to get 1 gold is actually quite big across the number of attacks that Jinx outputs. But this is, again, just going to be weaker into the multi-striker reroll line, because you can't as easily get those Hunter takedowns. And so if you're playing Kassadin 3, you want to put your strongest unit same side as Jinx so that she can't get those procs. And if you're the Jinx player, you want to be opposite side and really make sure that you're positioning your Jinx to at least kill a unit early. Ziggs, we talked about, is not going to be as strong. It can't really beat, it'll just get steamrolled by Kassadin. And 2 tanky Kog'Maw reroll, probably for the same reason. I mean, Kog'Maw's a hunter. It's going to have a hard time taking down Kassadin 3. And just overall, a lot worse across the board. So that kind of covers your biggest impact comp differences. I guess I'll touch upon the Warrior Preserver line. This is kind of more of a fast 9 comp to really stabilize, similar to Shapeshifter Dragons. You need to cap out with your 5 costs like Morgana, Milio, if you can get Diana. But a lot of those units that are in this comp got buffed: Fiora, Gwen, Karma, and Nasus. And there are a ton of artifact buffs. So if you get like What the Forge, this could be very strong. But again, it's just going to be a lot harder to reach this. And if there's multi-strikers running around in your lobbies, I suspect that there's going to be a lot more people doing aggressive roll downs on 3-2 to hit their Kassadin 2. And so now stage 3, like when Ahri was kind of the most common reroll line last patch, I believe, at high elo, at least at the lower like 1 and 2 cost, it was basically Ahri and 1 cost mage reroll. Your stage 3, you hopefully wouldn't take too bad losses. With multi-strikers, if they hit their whole, like you hit a Kassadin 2, a Kali 2, you could just be taking like 5 or 6 unit losses, especially if you don't have strong single target. So you're gonna be bleeding out a lot more, and so it may be a lot harder to get to level 9 and fast 9, especially if you're not win streaking, and you're gonna be taking a lot more damage in stage 3, I suspect. And then if they hit early and high roll, like you could just bleed out even if you are able to hit, like even if you hit Gwen 2, Fiora 2, if these multis hit ahead of tempo, you could still bleed out and die. So in this meta, Kassadin 3 is going to be king, and you're going to have to figure out how to play around that. If you can't beat them, join them. And really it's figuring out how do you play contested when multiple people are playing reroll. So that's my assessment of the 1422 meta so far. Keep in mind that this is less than a half day's worth of data, so I suspect the meta should evolve and change, but it's a good kind of first impression for you to be able to kind of alter your game plan and adjust how you're playing the patch going into 1422. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.